important stage of your life where you have some goals, some desires, and some promises to fulfill. Maybe it's your NEET, maybe it's your JEE, or maybe some other career goals. And it is extremely natural when you are dealing with a long-term goal that you may get distracted, you may get out of track, and the whole purpose is how to come back on track. What do you do when you lose track? So what does losing track really mean? Losing track really means that you have now decided to give something else the priority which actually should have been there. Losing track really means that now you are falling in for distractions which are too easy and too many. Losing track means that you are getting addicted to your addictions without your knowledge. Losing track means that now your desire to win, your desire to succeed has diminished. The moment you take control of your priorities, your distractions, your addictions, and your desires to win, the moment you have an approach to these four things, I'm telling you that it's so easy for you to succeed. It's easy for people to succeed when they are on track. But the moment you lose track, you mess up. You mess up. So to avoid that messing up in your life, in your career, in your relations, in your wealth, no matter what you're dealing with, in order to come back on track, get control of your priorities, discipline your distractions, control your addiction, do that in disciplined fashion, and above all, keep the desire to win here, in both the places. Keep it right there and keep it right going. So priorities are very, very, very important. What do you give priorities to? Remember, at every point in time, we are giving priorities a chance, and it's a decision, it's a conscious decision to give priorities a chance. Imagine you have to get up tomorrow morning and study at 5 o'clock and the alarm rings. What do? Do you snooze the alarm or do you pop up? What do you do? It depends what your priorities are. If you had a camp tomorrow and you're going to Singapore and if your alarm rings, would you snooze it or would you pop up? Now it depends what your priorities are, because your priorities are very important and you define the priorities and you decide the priorities. I know a student who gave priority to studies so well that he missed everything that year and he comes in a good, great, reputed AIR position. I'm not saying you must be that extreme, because personality is important, but priorities are even more important. Decide what you're giving your priorities to. Decide what's taking over you when you define your priorities. So tomorrow, no matter what happens to you, it happens as an outcome of the priorities that you've decided today. The first step to come back on track every time you fail, every time you get deviated, the first step to coming back on track is to define your priorities, is to follow your priorities, and is to keep defining your priorities over and over again. And you know, we all have distractions, we all have some kind of addictions in life. But you know, hey, the best way to disturb your distraction is to discipline your distraction. It's to be rude to them. And you know what? All of us, knowingly or unknowingly, gets disturbed, gets distracted, and we all have some kind of addiction. Like checking the WhatsApp every 10 minutes is an addiction. Are you aware of it? Like going on Facebook simply and scrolling down is an addiction. Do you know about it? We all have some kind of addiction, and the best way to deal with addiction is to be rude with it. It's to push it off at the background. Take these addictions when you are on your break time, not when you are on your main time. People who give priorities to distractions and priorities to addictions are the ones who have not really succeeded and not really the ones who have made it very big in life. So I am telling you that each time you get distracted, each time you get addicted to your addictions, the first thing to do to come back on track is to be rude to your distractions and to discipline every aspect of your life. That's only if you have a big dream and you have a desire deep inside to succeed, to prove it to the world outside, and to be a proud citizen. It's important to know what you've done so far, and it's important to keep a detailed track about everything. When you don't keep a track of everything that you do, you are not motivated to look further further deep into it, to analyze and to know what's missing. So keep a detailed track of your progress, because progress is very important, and it doesn't matter whether it's too slow or too big or less or more or whatever. Have your progress measured. Because every time you go out of track, every time you go off track, when you have your progress sheet in front of you, you can always motivate yourself by saying that in the last 2 months, I have reached here. In the last 2 months, this is what I have done. If you have a progress chart of the chapters that you've learned, of the questions that you've solved, of the marks that you have, it's going to be very, very important, because progress is progress, and to keep a check on your progress is so important. That's the third step of how you come back on track every time you fall out of it. And the fourth and the most important aspect of coming back on track every time you get deviated is by reminding yourself the goal that you're chasing. It's the desire to win. It's the desire to succeed. So what is the goal that you're chasing, and when did you set this goal? For example, you're in 12th now and you're chasing an IIT dream. Then the question is, when did you really begin setting this goal? Was it in 8th standard? Was it in 9th standard? So it's a big 3 or 4 year goal. Whenever you're chasing a long-term goal, it's important to remind yourself what's the purpose you set the very goal. Because each time you remind yourself of this purpose, it's a good amount of time, it's a good amount of motivation to come back on track every time you get deviated. See, remember, if dieting was a one-day process, everybody would diet and be thin and would be fit. But dieting is a long-term process. Because it's a long-term process, you have to constantly remind yourself of the goal, of the purpose behind that goal, so that each time you get distracted, deviated, addicted to something else, the purpose is what puts you back on track. To come back on track, remind yourself why you have this goal and what's the purpose behind having this goal. When you have a compelling reason to succeed, I'm telling you, every distraction looks minimal. When you have a desire to really win and beat everything, then every obstacle looks like a very small stepping stone. Depends on where you're looking at. Are you looking at your long-term goal, or are you looking at the short-term problem? We'll always have distractions, won't we? We'll always have sickness, won't we? We'll always have a strike. We'll always have a bad mood. But what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on these short-term, small distractions that come your way, or are you really focusing on the big goal? When you focus on the big goal, when you focus on the very big goal that you have, you are able to give it all the energy that you have. And now when you give it all the energy, your focus is there. Remember, focus goes where energy flows. So put in all your energy to that one big dream that you have. Everything will appear small, minimal, mediocre. That's the very best way to come back on track every time you get distracted, deviated, or when you fall for your addictions. My name is Anil Thomas and I'm from Meritstore. If you really liked what you just heard, do subscribe the button. That will be really nice of you. And before I go, I'm going to leave you with some final tips. Plan your day ahead. Wake up early in the morning. Have your goals so prominently engraved in your system that you know what you're doing, how you're doing, how much you're doing. Have the right kind of people who's connected with you. When you are connected with the right kind of people, they not only motivate you, but they also take you to the next level. So that's very, very important. Make sure whom you want to be like. Make sure who is the person you want to grow into. Once you have this personality in your mind, you can always come back on track each time you go out of track. And before I stop this, I want to tell you one last thing. It is absolutely normal to get distracted and addicted towards things, but it's not normal to stay there. The faster you make a decision, the sooner you motivate yourself, the faster you find out your own inspiration, you will be able to come back from your distraction onto the track where you really want to be. So up until the next time we meet, I'm going to say bye to you.